Good morning, MedTubers. We're going to go back to philosophy a little bit and talk about liberty within limits or freedom within limits, depending on the verbiage that's used in your general circle. Montessori firmly believed that classrooms should have limits. It was not a free-for-all, which is something that a lot of people assume when they see a classroom. Because children are working independently and choosing their own jobs and choosing different learning areas throughout the day from what their peers are doing, it seems chaotic and it seems unregulated. Now, we all know that that's not accurate. It's actually quite regulated because of the limits that she posed in the classroom. She knew that society is not limitless. Society has rules that you need to know, learn, and conform to in various places throughout society in order to be an effective contributing member of that society. You have to know the rules and you have to conform to them. Or you have to change them. That's also a possibility. Don't get me wrong that I'm saying conformity is the only way to fit into society. Let's just be honest, at the movie theater, everyone is expected to conform to the social norm of being quiet and respectful so that everyone can watch the movie together, right? Those are the kind of conformities that I'm talking about. Social conformities that help everyone to have a better existence, okay? So I pulled a few passages to discuss really briefly about the liberty within limits and how she viewed that. So today I'm taking passages from the Montessori method. Again, this is Montessori's own writing. I like to stick with writing from Maria Montessori herself, simply because it cuts out the middleman and it cuts out the interpretations, and I can literally read to you what she wrote from her own hand. And a lot of that gets interpreted, much like any great writing. And I will interpret it in the way that I see, but I want to read it for you so that if you see a different interpretation of that, you can do that. Does that make sense? Okay. So, we're taking from the Montessori method. If you have the book or you get the book and you want to find this passage, it is in chapter 5 and it's on page 86. I'm going to start there and then I'm going to skip to read a couple different lines so that I don't have to read an entire 2 pages to you, which I could. Okay. We call an individual disciplined when he is master of himself and can, therefore, regulate his own conduct when it shall be necessary to follow some rule of life. So she's defining discipline. It's when someone is the master of themselves. They have self-discipline. Since the child now learns to move rather than to be still, he prepares himself not for school, but for life. He becomes able through habit and through practice to perform easily and correctly the simple acts of social or community life. The discipline to which the child habituates himself here is, in its character, not limited to the school environment, but extends to society. Again, Montessori, her goal was to create world citizens, was to create people who could go out into the world and into society and function properly. Public schools don't really do that, and she knew it. So a lot of people take those and some of the other parts of her curriculum and they see it or they interpret it as a means for absolutely unruly behavior. And the next passage that I'm going to read stomps that into the ground efficiently, effectively, and with no arguments. And that's why I think it's important to read verbatim. To be thus helpful, it is necessary rigorously to avoid the arrestment of spontaneous movements and the imposition of arbitrary tasks. It is of course understood that here we do not speak of useless or dangerous acts, for these must be suppressed, destroyed. Destroyed. She doesn't mess around with her words. So let's talk about the first part of that. To be helpful, it is necessary that we rigorously avoid the arrest of spontaneous movements and the imposition of arbitrary tasks. So she's saying that we need to avoid our, no, don't do that, impulse, right? We see, oh my gosh, I saw a video or a little clip on one of the Montessori groups that I'm in of a mom who was teaching her toddler, like I think under 2 years, to use the automated water pouring thing in their refrigerator. And so he's got his cup, he puts it down, he uses his hand to push the button behind, and so of course his hand is over the cup, so the water comes down and just trickles down his arm. It's all on the mess on the floor. He does it like 2 or 3 times, and he's like, why isn't it going in my cup? I don't understand what's happening. It was a hilarious video and it was perfect. But she was talking about, like, she wants him to be independent, but there's this mess. So many parents would see that mess and be like, no, 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 stop, you're doing it wrong. She didn't. She videotaped it and asked for help, which was, I think, great. But so many parents and so many teachers will see a behavior similar to that, and they will, what did Montessori say? They will arrest the spontaneous movement. They shove themselves in there and they prevent the learning from that experience. Mistakes is how we learn, and that's a child making a mistake. And they've ruined that learning experience for the child. And a lot of times they go a step further and they impose arbitrary tasks, such as, you made a mess, go to your room. How is going to their room teaching them to pour the water correctly? How is going to their room teaching them to be responsible for the mess that they made by cleaning it up? How is going to their room teaching them self-discipline? It's not. It's teaching them to walk away and leave their mess for someone else to clean up. How many adults do we know that we would love to say, quit leaving your mess for us to clean up? Physical messes, emotional messes, doesn't matter. We would love for more adults in our lives to quit leaving their messes for us to clean up. But where did they learn it? The second part is I love the way she puts this, okay? It is, of course, understood. Like, you realize I mean this, right? She's like, let's not be daft. Okay. It is, of course, understood that here we do not speak of useless or dangerous acts. Useless. Okay. I'm going to be honest, it's hard for me to think of a useless task because I also see, or I have faith in the intrinsic motivation of the brain, and that what I see as a useless task might not actually be a useless task. And if I interrupt it, I am then going back to imposing myself on their jobs and their learning. And I'm arresting from them the ability to make the connection that they're making with what I see as a useless task. So that one's really hard for me. Maybe if you think of a useless task that is honestly useless, you can drop it in the comments below and help me out. But everyone I think of, I think they could be learning something from it. Like even down to like fiddling with your jeans. Okay, a kid is sitting there at circle fiddling with his jeans and you think he's not listening. First of all, he's probably listening. But second of all, he's fiddling with his jeans and he's fiddling with his jeans. What if he's learning about how the jeans are put together? What if he's learning about how the thread moves in and out of the fabric? And his brain is categorizing that information. Is it an appropriate time to do it? No, but that's maybe another conversation, right? So I have a hard time with that one. Dangerous acts, on the other hand, I do not have a hard time with. Nobody should have a hard time with them. When your child is running out into traffic and hasn't looked both ways for cars, you will yell stop, right? Especially if you actually see a vehicle. You will scream, you will pull out your mommy voice, you will pull out your scared, end of the world voice, and you will scream stop at your child. Will it scare them? Yes. Will they cry? Probably. Are you still going to yell it? Yes. Because it's dangerous and it needs to be stopped. What did she say? It needs to be destroyed. The action that is taking place needs to be destroyed, right? You're not going to hesitate. Those are the things she's talking about. I'm all for kids taking risks and climbing trees and whatnot, but the reality is that they make poor choices that could get them killed because they don't know any better yet. And if I can prevent that beforehand with a calm conversation or an explanation, yeah, definitely climb that tree, but watch out for that branch right there because it looks really flimsy. Or as you're going up, check each branch, pull on it, see how strong it is before you put your feet on it and your whole weight. I'm gonna give them tips because I don't want them to get to the top and not have that tip and fall crashing to the ground and crack their head open, because that's the only solution, or that's the only outcome of that situation. Nobody ever falls and just breaks an arm. They fall, they crack their head open, and everything is done. My husband hates my overactive doomsday imagination, and it gets me in a lot of trouble. But the moment I had a kid, that's where my brain goes. I started writing an entire series of short stories. I take those crazy situations in my brain that I worry about, and I write them into a story, and it's very cathartic for me to get rid of them. But that's a whole other thing. Montessori says in those useless and dangerous acts, don't be afraid to say no. That's okay. They need to be suppressed, destroyed. And that's okay. Don't be afraid to step in those moments. The rest of the time, what does liberty within limits look like? The limits that you set are going to depend on your house, your environment, your geographic location, your personal experiences, your parenting style, the age of your child and their developmental readiness. All of those things are going to factor into the limits that you place within your environment. They're going to be different for everyone, and that's okay. The key is to just be consistent with them in yourself and in your own environment. For example, at our house, the liberty is that each of my kids has a tablet device of some kind. They are mostly things that we had, and then when we upgraded, rather than just toss the one that we are getting rid of, we pass them down to the kids. They're mostly homeschooling games, educational things, and then some like playing games for road trips and things like that. So they have devices that they are able to play on. The limits that we place on those devices are, you're not allowed to turn it on in the morning before school. Morning on the weekend, that's different. But before school, it does not get turned on. To the point where my youngest, she's 3, she doesn't even go to school. And we can't turn the television on for her to watch an episode of a cartoon or anything like that until the other 2 are gone. Because we don't turn devices on before school, and the television is a device. It gives you device brain, which is another common expression in our house. And I don't want you going to school with device brain. I want you to have a clear, calm brain to start your day. So we don't turn on devices in the morning. We also don't turn on devices after dinner. Every once in a while, we will watch an episode of a family show that we enjoy together after dinner, but it's usually the weekend. It's very rarely a weekday. And personal devices that they're playing games on don't happen after dinner. We play chess, we play board games, we read books, we talk about our day. The kids might play a game while my husband and I are cleaning up the house. We might all do the laundry together. It doesn't matter, but devices are not turned on. And again, it's because device brain is something that my kids struggle with, and I don't want them going to sleep while trying to calm their device brain. So that's the limit that we have set in our house. Do other houses have these limits? Maybe not, maybe they do. It doesn't matter. That's the limit for us. And it's okay because it works for us, and it's necessary for us because I've recognized and observed my kids and their device brain and how crazy it makes them. And so to avoid that and give them a better shot at a successful day at school and a successful transition to sleeping, we have eliminated that. That's the limit that we have placed on that liberty. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense. So you apply that to anything in your house. You apply that to the video of the woman and the little toddler, right? The liberty is that he gets to pour his own water. The limit is that somebody suggested putting a rag and teaching him how to clean up his mess. Great, that's a wonderful limit to his liberty, because the limit is its own lesson. It's a lesson in cleaning up a water spill, but it's also a lesson in cleaning up after yourself and taking care of your mess and your mistake. So he's learning 2 things in that job, and that's a great limit to place on his liberty. Yes, you can do this, and you can do it messily until you learn how to do it right, but you're gonna clean up your mess. That's a beautiful, beautiful limit to put on his liberty. anything you have in your house or in your homeschool class or in your day is a liberty that they have. It's a privilege that they have. And the limits for those, again, they're going to be decided by you, your partner, your community, and all of the factors that you have. If you're having a hard time figuring out what the limit should be on a specific liberty that you have with your children, drop us a comment below and we'll see if we can help you out, or maybe somebody else can help you out. That's the beauty of this community. We all have similar problems maybe, and maybe someone else has thought of the perfect limit for that liberty, like the suggestion of a toddler cleaning up his mess at the refrigerator. You never know, and sometimes they can be so simple, and when you read it, you'll be like, that makes so much sense, why didn't I think of it? But you're too close to it, and sometimes you just can't see the simple solution. So it's okay to ask for help. Please ask for help. You can ask for it here in the comments below, or you can ask for it in any forum that you feel trusted and comfortable asking in. That's a little bit about liberty within limits. Please don't be afraid to set limits. They are necessary for learning how to live in society. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it inspires you a little bit or gives you a few ideas to better your day and make it more relaxing and more successful. Subscribe to our channel and you'll get updates when we post things. And we'll see you next time.